It's another worksheet. Without the thought he's a pervert for asking that question. I still don't know whether I would answer it. If I thought that question, I would probably be curious. I would probably just say, where did that question come from? I would probably say, is it, would I ask that if I couldn't think he was a pervert? I might ask if I have to answer that question. That's probably what I would say. I would probably say, do I have to answer that question in order to pass this interview? And are you going to tell my parents if I don't? I would probably have the courage to ask him, because I wouldn't be seeing him as a pervert. I would at least see him as a leader that had been kind to me. And so I would feel comfortable asking if I have to answer that question. And if he said yes, I would still be scared, so I would probably ask him, okay, if I have to answer the question, does the answer stay with you? And I would trust his answer to that question. Because without the thought that he's a pervert, and like I say, I can still think the thought, I'm not worthy, I have to stay here in this interview. I would still have all those thoughts. I could still have all those thoughts, and I did have those thoughts. So again, those are some other worksheets. But yeah, I would at least have the courage to ask. I would at least feel like I could ask, do I have to answer that question? And then when I hear him say that everyone has these kinds of thoughts, or a lot of people have these kinds of thoughts, I would take a little more comfort in that. It would feel more like a typical standard interview, like the ones that I'd had in the past. I wouldn't really notice the people in the hallway much. I would notice this awkward silence after he asks the question, and I would probably say something about the awkward silence. I would probably say, this is feeling a little awkward. Maybe I might. I'm a pretty timid person at that age. Without the thought, this church leader is a pervert, I would see him as someone who's just there doing his job, just there asking the questions he's been assigned to ask. I would see him as someone who cares about me, because he's telling me that other people besides me have these thoughts. I would see him as human. I would see this man who also feels awkward asking this question. I would notice he feels awkward too. I would notice that he's a family man that has never done anything bad to me. I would hear the richness of his low baritone voice, bass voice. I would appreciate the time he's spending with me. I would appreciate the fact that he's trying to comfort me. By telling me that other people have these thoughts. I would notice that he ends the interview shortly after that because he recognizes how awkward I'm feeling. And I think that's why. I would feel like a worthy person in spite of the thoughts that I've had. I would feel like I am still approved of by God. I would still feel like I'm approved of even by this man. I wouldn't be in a hurry to get out of the room. Not as much. I would feel, I'd feel fine there. I would still notice the odor, the body odor. But it wouldn't bother me that much. I would be fascinated by his accent, because he has an accent. I'd feel compassion for him and the awkwardness that he's feeling after asking this question and seeing me be silent. I would even notice the awkwardness in his voice as he asks the question. And I would be more in tune to myself, more in tune to what I'm thinking about that question, and then about my own thoughts. Like I would think about these dirty thoughts that I've had. And I'm pretty sure I'd realize that I'm pretty innocent. And that I'm pretty normal. I'll drop the pretty. I'd recognize that I'm innocent and I'm normal. Yeah. So the next step after question 4 is the turnarounds. So you try and find opposites of the statement that you originally had. So my statement is, this church leader is a pervert. So I can take opposite of the word pervert and I could say, this church leader is an angel. He was an angel for spending the time to do this interview with me that was probably quite awkward for him. He was an angel for comforting me, trying to comfort me after asking this really awkward question. He was an angel for the compassion that he showed me when the interview was over, and he was an angel for being there, like being present in the interview, and paying attention to that and not being distracted in his head. He seemed to be very present there. So the church leader was an angel. That's one turnaround. Another, this church leader was not a pervert. He was just doing his job. He was just asking the questions that he'd been assigned to, even if that one wasn't on the handbook or wasn't told, even if he wasn't told to ask that question. he felt the need to ask that question. So he was just doing his job. He didn't touch me in any weird way. He didn't ask any other questions other than, have you ever had a dirty thought? And he had never done anything or touched me or anything in the past either. He held the role of this leader, which showed that it was a trusted role. He was in a room behind a mostly closed door with me. Well, he left the door a crack open, which shows he's not a pervert. Like, it shows that he wanted to make sure that I felt safe in that room. Even though there was no window, he made sure that the door stayed cracked open. So my church leader is not a pervert. I could say, so you can turn it to your thoughts as well. So you can say, my thoughts were a pervert. So my thoughts about this church leader were a pervert, because I started imagining that he had these perverted ideas toward me, or that he was feeling sexually toward me. And that was all in my imagination. There was no reality in that situation. Yeah, even though that there's a possibility that he had those thoughts or whatever, I can't know that. All I can know is my own thoughts. And my thoughts were perverted toward him. Like, what are you trying to get at? Are you going to do something weird or think something weird about me? And my thoughts about me were perverted in the sense of they were twisted. My thoughts about me were twisted. I saw myself as this dirty, unworthy person for having thoughts about sex as a 16-year-old girl. And it's perfectly normal to have thoughts about sex as a 16-year-old girl. So I perverted those thoughts about sex into something dirty and bad when it really wasn't. And I perverted the question, have you ever had dirty thoughts? Because really, that really is a very innocent question. Honestly, I mean, if you think about it, that's in my eyes now, that's a really innocent question. Have you ever had a dirty thought? And my answer is yes, just like you. And I'm innocent, just like you. Yeah, I could go a long time on that. I'm seeing the timer on this, and the video is it's 52 minutes long. But I'm going to say just a tad more. So the original statement, this church leader is perverted. And then I said, my thoughts are perverted. Okay, I want to say more about my thoughts are perverted. Yeah, my thoughts about myself were perverted. My thoughts about my parents were perverted. Perverted in the sense of twisted, changed into something that wasn't true. So, the thought that my parents didn't care about me, or that they allowed me into a dangerous situation, those thoughts were not true. They were perverted thoughts. It was thoughts that I had in my mind about this situation. I mean, the truth is they cared deeply about me, and I can give tons of evidence for that. And my thought that he didn't care about me, that this church leader didn't care about me, that was perverted. He did care about me. He left that door open a crack. He tried to make me feel comfortable after asking a really awkward question. And he didn't extend the interview long time after that. Yeah. So I'm going to take a break here and be done with that worksheet for the moment. So that's the first time I've done the work on that situation. And I'm feeling more there. I want to complete that. I went through all 4 questions and turnarounds with you. I will probably do that same worksheet a few more times to get myself worked through that completely, to get myself to the point where I feel good about it. I will say this though, I've noticed when I do a worksheet, even if it doesn't feel complete at the time, it's kind of like this work keeps on doing itself in my mind. And over time, and a lot of times it's just over a couple of days. I get to the end of a couple of days and that work has just been working in my head. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's really subtle and surprising. That thing was bothering me a couple of days ago, even after I finished the worksheet, and now it isn't bothering me anymore. It's interesting. So it's kind of amazing how it works. Byron Katies, she said that she worked on her mom for like a year. She's not sure how long, but about a year. And I could see that. I can see probably working on my own mom for about a year maybe. And it's just it's such a beautiful and a fascinating thing. And it's a comforting thing to know there's no timeline and there's no time limit. Like, you don't have to say, okay, by this day and this time, I have to be complete on this one. This needs to be not bothering me anymore. No, it doesn't have to work that way. It doesn't work that way. Yet it keeps surprising me how quickly things work through. Even though there's no rush, it's like, it is, I just keep being surprised. And I wish you well, and may you be pleasantly surprised. I'm going to tell you, this is not my work. And Katie would say it's not hers. She would say this came to her and she's sharing it because people want to know. But I'm going to say, go to thework.com. You can get all of the worksheets for free. That's Byron Katies' website. And she puts all the work. Everything important about the work is free, she says. And it is. You go there, you can get the One Belief at a Time worksheet, which is the one that I went through today with you. And it has all of the questions on there. It has the 4 questions and the turnarounds and everything on there. You can get the Judge Your Neighbor worksheet, which is another really powerful worksheet for getting your beliefs written down and for being really thorough. And then that worksheet has like multiple, at least 10 different beliefs on there that you can work through on the One Belief at a Time worksheet. And then it has a list of emotions. And that list of emotions is really powerful to put in front of you because you can, it has things on there that you wouldn't maybe not normally think of, but then you can identify with. You're like, oh yes, absolutely, I was feeling that during this situation. So there's the negative emotions, and it also has a list of the positive emotions. Negative, positive, stressful, non-stressful, however you want to look at those. It also has a list of universal beliefs. So if you're not sure where to start doing the work, you can just grab one of the beliefs off of there and work on it, because these are universal beliefs. These are beliefs everyone has. And that's one of the beauties of the work. I mean, I keep being so surprised that every time I facilitate someone, they're telling the story of my life. Like, the belief they have is exactly the belief I have. The situation may be different, but the belief is exactly the same. And often the situation is almost exactly the same. So it's really comforting to know that you're not alone. You're not alone. I am with you, and so is everyone. We're so connected, and it's amazing. I wish you well. May you have peace and hope and happiness. Until next time. Bye.